On your radio dials of 105.1 FM, 790 AM. Also available online, sportstalk1051.com, where you can check out the link to the YouTube video stream. You got your Sports Talk app and Google and Alexa home devices. Happy Grind My Gears Tuesday, everybody. And, well, we just get into it right away. Yeah. Brewers, big move yesterday. They actually did it. They pulled the trigger and traded Josh Hader to the Padres, to the San Diego Padres. So they kept him in the National League. Now they don't play the Padres. I'm just double checking the big old calendar here. Yeah, they don't play him anymore this year, so we won't see Josh Hader unless it's in the postseason. But let's just get into it, baby. What are your thoughts on that deal? How shocked were you when that came down yesterday? You know, I mean, for the last couple of years, it seems like we've been talking about, well, would the Brewers trade Josh Hader? Could they move Josh Hader? Should they? Should they not? Et cetera, et cetera. It's like, oh, you need impact players right away. You know, you need an impact player right away if you're going to trade Josh Hader or like a top 5 prospect or combination of both, something like that. And well, little a little confusing, maybe confounding on the surface. I mean, they're not household names that they got in return from the Padres. Taylor Rogers. I mean, Twins fans might remember Taylor Rogers there for a long time, from 2016 to 2020. Rogers this year for the Padres, he has collected 28 saves, 1-5 record with a 4.35 ERA. The Brewers also acquiring Lamet from another bullpen pitcher there, who's appeared in 13 games for the Padres so far this season, but he's 0-1 with a 9.49 ERA. Career-wise, he's actually 3.0 WAR, 15-19 record, 4.08 ERA in 82 games. The Brewers also picking up a couple of prospects, Robert Gasser and Estrade Ruiz, who could potentially, maybe they envision him as their new everyday center fielder, although, he's in AAA right now. He's got a boatload of speed. I mean, the dude is fast as all get out. So you'd think center field, but I was reading a little bit that he's more of a corner outfielder, but maybe the Brewers can develop him into a center fielder there. But and then you got Mr. Robert Gasser, who's going to be down at the AA affiliate, the Biloxi Shuckers, for the Brewers. So no immediate impact. He was a second-round pick by the Padres last year. So I'm curious, Brewers fans, what do you make of the move? I mean, let's go about this the whole way. Like, in that clubhouse, you got a first place team, and they traded away their closer, their all-star closer, one of the most dominant closers in the league. Yeah, he was struggling a little bit in the month of July, but what kind of message do you think that sends in the clubhouse? Is that something that you're even concerned about? You got maybe some more bullpen depth along the surface. The Brewers also acquiring Matt Bush from the Rangers yesterday or late last night. You look at his career, former number 1 overall pick in 2004, and this year 2-1 with a 2.95 ERA in 40 games. In 40 games so far this year. So, I mean, Brewers, we knew that they were going to add to their bullpen, or I should say we had a good idea, or we thought they would be adding to their bullpen. So Brewers adding a couple of bullpen options there, but you lose Josh Hader. So did they get enough in your opinion? Is it to be seen, TBD, to be determined? What's your first reaction? And maybe your overall thoughts have kind of changed after you've thought about it there for a little bit. And I understand, and I totally get that, Josh Hader probably wasn't going to be around for the long haul. Maybe even gone next year, maybe even gone this offseason. But does it necessarily help the team right now for this season? And does that really matter to you? Yeah, I know David Stearns. We're going to get to a statement David Stearns yesterday after the Josh Hader trade, and he talked about trying to stay competitive in the now and trying to win now, but also trying to stay competitive in the future, staying relevant for years to come. And he kind of noted about how some teams maybe they push all their chips in, and then it takes them a few years to build back. Deadline is today. So we'll see if the Brewers make any more moves. There are reports. I mean, it's just rumors. It's Twitter rumors from writers and analysts out there saying that the Brewers are still pretty darn active and making some trade calls and working the phones. Todd Rosiak, who covers the Brewers for the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, just in the middle of the night, some quotes from David Stearns. They were talking to David Stearns and burning the midnight oil, if you will. Stearns saying we're still working. I don't know if anything else will cross the finish line, but we're still working and still very active. There's a tremendous amount of industry chatter right now, and so we'll stay active through the deadline. He said he would like to add a complementary offensive piece as well, but he says the same issue remains, the balance in the lineup. We would like to add a piece to make us better, but there's not that obvious spot to do so. Would you agree with that? That there's not that obvious spot to do so. Maybe you feel like, nah, they need a center fielder. Maybe you'd like a little bit more pop at the third base spot. But definitely a wild afternoon yesterday when that news came down about Josh Hader. But again, start hitting me up with some texts, okay? 715-830-1912. Shoe Doctor's bullpen line. It is a Grind My Gears Tuesday, so hey, maybe some of you will be that's kind of your Grind My Gears. I don't know. Where are you at on this whole thing? I mean, I think it, and obviously, I think it makes it a little bit easier to transition to maybe Devin Williams, or maybe they still view Taylor Rogers as the new closer, or maybe they mix it up a little bit. Williams one night or a couple nights, and then they go to Taylor Rogers. Maybe they mix it up based off of matchups. Who knows? We don't know right now. Maybe we'll find out in the next couple of days here, but I think there's a big part of me too that if they didn't have a guy like Devin Williams already in-house, maybe they don't make this move while they are still in first place, and maybe they make this type of move in the off season. But you have to wonder, with how well Devin Williams has pitched this year and how well he's pitched since he's been on the scene overall, probably made that move just a little bit easier. But still, I think one question that a lot of Brewers fans have is, how does this make the team better for this season? So we'll hit that up. Pads came on yesterday, baby, for training camp, first day in practice, green and gold, and it sounds like it was a day for the defense, according to those in attendance, to the writers in attendance there. It was a day of maybe some miscues on offense, some dropped balls, some false starts and all that, but it sounds like it was the defense that was the story of not only yesterday, but it sounds like the defense the last couple of days. Rashawn Gary looking pretty darn good. Dean Lowry, it sounds like the defensive line really put on a show yesterday, clogging up some of the lanes and getting after the quarterback of Aaron Charles Rodgers. We saw Sammy Watkins making, obviously he returned to practice a few days ago, but this time in team reps. So, well, hopefully, knock on wood, nothing with the pads. Usually when we see pads come on, maybe a couple guys get dinged up and that sort of thing, but hopefully nothing to that extreme. But we'll get to some of the comments from Matt LaFleur yesterday before practice and what he had to say about his team and such. Also, we'll catch up with the Express coming up in just under 2 hours, just past 8 o'clock. The Express, we got the showcase today, but remember, this is the week. This is the week to get to Carson Park and get that home field advantage for the Express. Help them get that second half championship and clinch a postseason berth and maybe even an overall championship. The Express did get the victory last night against Waterloo, and they take a 4-game lead over La Crosse in the second half standings. Then after that, in the 8 o'clock hour, we will catch up with our dude, Mr. RJ Cardinal from the Zone in Madison. We are also getting closer to college football season. Last week, we took a look at the offense. Today, we'll take a look at the defense. Jimmy Leonard's group. Kind of look at all the positions surrounding this Badger football team on the defensive side. So what does Jimmy Leonard have to work with this year? What positions have the best depth? What are the positions to watch? Any studs that we should be keeping our eyes on? We'll chat with RJ Cardinal about that coming up. Let's say 8:20, 8:25, somewhere around there. So, but all right, let's just jump into it. I don't even have I don't have the window up for the texting line because I didn't want to get distracted in case stuff started to fly through. So let's get it rolling here. Thoughts on the Josh Hader trade? The deadline is today. This afternoon, early evening. Will the Brewers make another move? Will they add a bat? Who could it be? What are the latest rumors? What are the latest rumblings out there surrounding the Brewers? Kind of an interesting thing with the first place team, not only trading their closer, but apparently they've made it known for the last couple of weeks. Omar Narvaez is available. Colton Wong is available. Can they get some of those deals done with those players? We'll see. But I really think today is going to be a little bit nuts. Now, it totally could be a lot. We're buying into the hype, buying into the rumors, and then it just doesn't live up to the, all the talk out there. How many times have we seen that before? Right? We've seen that a lot. But I don't know. I feel like this one's a little bit different. I still don't feel like Juan Soto is going to get traded today, even though it sounds like it's kind of down to the Dodgers, Giants, and the Cardinals. I still don't feel like it's going to happen. But if I had to pick one of those teams, I hate to say it, but I feel like it's going to be the Cardinals. But we'll see. But I think today is going to be a little bit nuts with some moves, especially towards the deadline. But let's just jump into it, all right? Let's talk some baseball. Let's talk some Brewers. Your reaction from the Josh Hader trade yesterday. When you look at the overall bullpen, do you think the depth is now better because of Josh Hader being gone, even though you lose an all-star closer there when you factor into with the addition of Matt Bush? Do you put Devin Williams at that closing role, which everybody's just kind of assuming, but Taylor Rogers also has closing experience? Do you mix it up a little bit? What's the plan? Or maybe we're just kind of, thinking too much about it right now at this point. Let's just get into it. Take a quick break, and then Wisconsin Credit Union leadoff coming up in just a few minutes, where we'll talk some Josh Hader and Brewers.
Got a take on today's topics, but can't call in? Then hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, or the text line. And
We got to figure out where the at-bats are going to come from and such. But please go get a bat. Just go get a bat. I want a bat. I want to be greedy now. Okay. I'm going to be a little greedy. And I think they will. I think they will. I know David Stearns and that comment that Todd Rosiak from the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel posted about what David Stearns had said, that you don't know if any of these deals. Yeah, here's the quote. There's a tremendous amount of industry chatter right now, and so we'll stay active through the deadline. I don't know if anything else will cross the finish line, but we're still working. I ultimately think they're going to be able to cross that line and get at least a deal done. I think today the focus is going to be on trying to find a bat, trying to find some offense. I think after those moves yesterday, they got a couple of pitchers to throw into the bullpen. I think today, last night, overnight, the focus is on adding offense. But the Matt Bush acquisition kind of flying under the radar here a little bit. David Stearns saying on acquiring Matt Bush, this is a guy who's going to throw 97 to 98, electric four-seam fastball. He's got a curveball that he uses regularly as well, and it's a power mix. I think control is always a part of the equation because Bush does have 2 more years of control. We like players who have the ability to be on our team for multiple years going forward. That's important to us, and Matt certainly fits that bill. All right. What do you want today to happen, Brewers fans? Today's the day. What do you want to happen? Do you think it'll happen? Do you think anything will happen? Shoot me a text, 715-830-1912. Shoe Doctor's Bullpen Line. Or you can hit me up on Twitter at DANKASPER, Facebook.com/Kasper Sports. I think they'll get a rotational bat today. I don't think they're going to make a play for an everyday player. I think it's going to be a rotational piece. Whether that's a Joey Gallo or somebody like that, but I don't think they'll get an everyday, center fielder. That dude starting every day out there. I think it's going to be a rotational piece, which I think that maybe the majority of Brewers fans may not be all in favor for. I was just reading earlier this morning MLB.com's final day predictions, and for the Brewers, they do have the Brewers take a chance on Joey Gallo. Then their little write-up here says, a year ago, Gallo seemed a perfect fit for the Bronx. He hits tape measure blasts. He has an all-or-nothing approach. And he said, what could possibly go wrong? Well, pretty much everything went wrong, and now the Yankees will look to unload Gallo just ahead of his free agency. The Brewers are the perfect team to give him another chance. They need to be protective of their farm system, but they also need a lineup boost. Gallo acquitted himself well enough in center field in Texas in 2019. In Milwaukee, he could platoon there with Tyrone Taylor, and perhaps far away from the New York spotlight, give that underperforming area a lift. What could possibly go wrong? It sure seems like a typical Brewers move, doesn't it? Buy low, and you're really hoping that you're striking gold with that. Really hoping that it'll be able to work out. And I'm sure Joey Gallo would love to move on from the Yankees and maybe go to a team that's going to give him some more opportunities, or maybe get a little bit of a change in scenery and try to salvage the rest of his season to improve his stock as he heads into free agency. So I'm sure Joey Gallo would love to maybe move on and get some more playing time, because it's all about the money, right? It's all about that. All right, tell you what, we got to take a quick break. I'll check out the texting line and and see what other comments we got. The Cardinals, by the way, did make a move too, and it's like Quintana. It's like the only team he hasn't played for is the Brewers, and it's like every team starts him whenever he goes up against the Brewers. Quintana is now with the Cardinals. So, Cubbies, Pirates, Cardinals. There you go. Can't get rid of the guy. We keep seeing him all the time. And it's a little bit different than maybe a few years ago when he was with the Cubbies there. But still, it's like he's always there. Guarantee he's probably going to start a game or two against the Brewers whenever later in the last couple months here when Brewers and Cardinals go up against each other. Whew. All right. Hit me up with some text, people. I want to hear from you. Quick break. We'll be back after these words to finish up the first hour.
figure out, in my head, I'm stepping back. I'm trying to make this trade make sense. It makes zero, even with what Stearns came on, his press conference and what he said, his release, it makes no sense to me to make this move. They talk about making a move to keep the team competitive, yet still remain competitive today. They could have done that by keeping Hader and trading him for a boatload of prospects in the offseason.
Mm-hmm.
It makes no sense to do that right now unless they're trying to load up with prospects, keep the bullpen strong with, getting Rogers, who's having a decent year, and making a move for another bat. Now, I'm bargaining, man. I'm hoping that's what they're doing. I don't know if Joey Gallo's the guy. I mean, the guy's hitting $150 for crying out loud. You could probably go in there and hit $140.
Hey, come on. Give me a little bit more. Maybe $162. Okay. Something like that.
Okay. Well, my goodness. If they're making a move for a bat, I mean, maybe you said it, you kind of briefly whizzed by it, but maybe they are trying to load up with all the prospects they got. I read an article that said two of these prospects were in the top 30 for San Diego, but the Brewers have them in the top 10 overall on their overall prospects list. So maybe they're trying to load up on prospects to make a push for Soto or something like that. That would be awesome. So I'm not going to be totally ticked off at this move until the end of today.
So, which is, I mean, because you were the one, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you were the one that's kind of always brought up, do you trade Josh Hader? Do you trade him and, maybe get some players in return? Well, the team did it, but you don't like this move.
No, and I would have been okay with it if they made themselves better today. If they are going all in and trying to make a World Series, if they would have brought in legitimate, like a couple bats that, if Joey Gallo and a bunch of prospects, even though I'm not a Joey Gallo fan, I would have understood it. It would have made sense to me. But with what they brought in no spot in their lineup did they improve, and they got worse at the closer role. So I don't think this move made any step forward for this season, and that's what disappoints me.
I look at it too, and at least on paper, I just kind of wonder, does it make them better at this point? That's my biggest question. But I kind of agree with you too. It's like, I want to see if anything else happens today. I want to see if anything else happens today. I feel like now you focus on offense, don't you, C-Bomb? I mean, you've got a couple guys you add to the bullpen now. Maybe you got a little bit more depth there with Bush and Rogers, et cetera. But today is all got to be all about offense, I have to imagine.
I agree, and I don't at this point. It makes it so hard for me because I've kind of grown. I love Rowdy, but do they go get Josh Bell, or do they go after somebody like that? I don't even know if Josh Bell got traded yesterday, for crying out loud. There were so many trades and so many moves that went on. I tried to read through them all, but I didn't have time, so I couldn't get through them all. But yeah, I mean, they have to address the offense. There's no other way around it. And that, like I said, I'm going to wait until the end of the day before I really let my gears grind. But yeah, they did not make themselves. They did not take a step forward for this season by that trade yesterday.
Do you, I kind of threw out the comparison of the tenure of Ted Thompson with Green Bay. Are you getting flashbacks similar to that? When I was reading David Stern's statement and talking about trying to stay competitive for years in that, and I just immediately I kept going back to that era with McCarthy and Ted Thompson. Am I overreaching on that?
It's funny you say that, because right before you mentioned that, I had grabbed my Packers polo to get ready to go to work today, and it's like, this Brewers team feels like the Packers used to. They're just trying to be good enough to fill the seats, and it ticks me off. And then you had made the comment about Ted Thompson, and I was like, exactly. So yeah, that's what it feels like, and again, I'm going to give them this, the next 12 hours here, or 18 hours, whatever it is, till the deadline. Is it 4? What time is it today for the deadline?
It's this afternoon. I'll double check the deadline, actually.
Well, I'm giving them until that time before I really let my gears grind. And I wanted to call your vent line, and I actually picked up my phone twice to call it yesterday, and I thought, I can't every other word in my mind at that time was not arable, so I couldn't do it.
5 o'clock tonight. 5 o'clock's the deadline. So
Okay. Well, let's give them till then and see if they can swing another move. But they do have to improve that lineup.
I agree. I totally agree. So, all right, dude. Well, fingers crossed. Do you think that you want to make a prediction? Do you think they make a move?
I think they do. I think they will add a bat. I really, and I think now they bolstered up a little bit on prospects. Maybe they got enough to go get someone like Josh Bell, or who knows? You know. But yeah, I think they will make a move. Joey Gallo would be fun to see some of those bombs that he could hit, way out of Miller Park. But the problem is he hits 150 for crying out loud, and we don't need more of that.
Mm-hmm. All right, dude. Well, you have a good rest of your day, and I'm sure we'll be hearing from you regardless of what happens today. So,
absolutely, my brother. You have a great day, and let's go Brewers.
All right, there you go. There's C-Bomb hopping off the Shoe Doctors bullpen line there. What's your thoughts, Brewers Nation? Do you think the Brewers, will they make a move today? Do you think they'll add to their offense today? Do you think they're not done? That was kind of the speculation out there yesterday that the Brewers are not done adding. Well, David Stearns kind of confirmed that. He talked with Todd Rosiak saying that they're active, they're working the phones. Don't know if anything will materialize to cross the finish line here, but they're working at it and they're trying to get some deals done. He did mention that he would like to add a complimentary offensive piece to this lineup. Who is that? If it's Joey Gallo, it seems like a Brewers fit, or excuse me, it seems like a Brewers move, a typical Brewers move of buying low, because his stock has got to be down. I mean, that price has got to be. It can't take a whole lot to get Joey Gallo. I mean, it's got to be way low to what it was last year when the Yankees got him from Texas. So it's the price has to be pretty reasonable, I would have to imagine. But if it's Joey Gallo, I almost feel like I would like another one. But then it's like, then you have to ask the question, like, okay, so who are you going to move on from? It's like Tampa Bay yesterday. Brett Phillips designated for assignment. It's like, I would love Brett Phillips back in Milwaukee just for the personality and the enthusiasm and getting him in there. But does he make the team better? Does he make the team better? Does Joey Gallo, I mean, he comes in, he's a platoon player. I feel like he's going to be platooning with Tyrone Taylor unless somebody gets hot, and then, you give that player more playing time at that point in time. But, you got Yelly, you got Renfroe with the corners. If they do acquire Joey Gallo, it's him and Tyrone Taylor. You got McCutchen there too, who can, get a couple games in here or there in the outfield, but he's been getting most of his time at DH. Do they look at another first baseman and try to make it a platoon over there as well? I'm glad I'm not the general manager. I'll just say that. I'm glad I'm not the general manager. I'm glad I'm not David Stearns, because, And let me ask you this. Think about this for a few minutes and let me know. So back to what David Stearns said in his statement about making sure that, we're competitive throughout many years, and we're not going to be one of those teams, and I'm paraphrasing here, but we're not going to be one of those teams that, they get stuck in trying to rebuild after every few years, where they push all their chips in. Maybe it doesn't work out, or maybe it does, best case like the Royals, but then you're stuck in a rebuild mode for a few years. Do you think that is the right mindset, the right plan to have for a team like the Brewers, a smaller market team that does operate within a, quote, budget? Do you think that is the right plan to go about building your team? Making sure that you're staying competitive every year And then maybe there's those couple years, or maybe there's that stretch, kind of like what the Brewers are on right now, where it's like, all right, they've got some pieces here. They got a good team. We can make a couple of moves here, and we're going to go for it. But we're not going to, sell out the farm. Do you agree with David Stern's approach about making sure this team is competitive throughout the years? So obviously, the Josh Hader deal, he was thinking about the future. Let's be real here. With this trade for Josh Hader, he was thinking about the future. So think about that for a little bit. Hit me up with some texts, 715-830-1912. We only got about couple minutes to the top of the hour here, so that shot clock is going to come here in about a minute or so. So coming up next hour, we'll get back to some more of your texts and tweets and Facebook messages. We'll talk a little green and gold. Packers putting on the pads yesterday in practice. We'll tell you what anything pop out yesterday. Sounds like the defense had themselves a day, especially the defensive line, and clogging up the running holes and getting after the quarterback and all that good stuff. So we'll chat a little green and gold. Also, we'll chat some college football, continuing to take a look at the Badgers with RJ Cardinal. That'll be about 8:20, 8:25 this morning. We'll take a look at the defense side. What does Jimmy work with for this Badger football team? Then right before that, we'll catch up with the Express, the first place Express, who are up 4 games over the Lacrosse Loggers right now for first place in that second half. They get that first place sealed up, they'll be moving on to the postseason. But again, this is the week to be heading to Carson Park. Okay, you got the showcase today, but home game tomorrow, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And they're on the road all the way up until next Saturday. So let's make Carson Park a little home field advantage there for the Express, right? Get them that first place finish, and then hopefully some playoff games at Carson Park too. All right, one in. Let's hear you, Brewers fans. Keep that texting line popping. Hit us up with some tweets and Facebook, and maybe even some comments on the video stream. Quick break. We'll be back in just a few minutes to kick off this second hour. Second hour kicking off on this Grind My Gears Tuesday. Just grinding your gears, people. Hit us up. Quick text, Twitter, Facebook. A lot of you grinding your gears about the Brewers trade of one Josh Hader. Maybe some of you saving your Grind My Gears for tomorrow, perhaps, depending on what the Brewers do or don't do by the trade deadline. Coming up tonight, text Hader move was a downgrade at closer, but it replaces several pieces of the bullpen. Suter and Milner can go. I would agree with that. I would say that, yeah, they've got a little bit more depth there at the pen with Rogers and the Matt Bush trade, acquiring Matt Bush, the 36-year-old veteran, former first overall pick, throwing some heat this year. So, yeah, I would agree that they've got a little bit more depth in the back end of their bullpen now. But does it make the team overall better? I think that's what maybe some Brewers fans are trying to figure out, trying to answer themselves. We'll get back to some more Brewers and baseball talk coming up a little bit later on. Let's kick off this hour with some sports nuggets of the day. 1921, 8 White Sox players were acquitted of throwing the 1919 World Series. Shoeless Joe Jackson, everybody knows that name, right? Well, it's either from that or Field of Dreams. 1938, bright yellow baseballs were used in a Major League Baseball game between the Brooklyn Dodgers and the St. Louis Cardinals. It was hoped that the balls would be easier to see. 1992, Jackie Joyner took the gold medal in the heptathlon for a second consecutive time. And in 2012, Michael Phelps won his 16th gold medal when he won the 200-meter individually medley. With the victory, he became the first male swimmer to win the same event in 3 consecutive Olympics. Those are just some of your sports nuggets here for this August 2nd. Like on the all-time athlete lists, kind of forget about what Michael Phelps did in the Olympics. Dude was a fish in the water, for crying out loud. Man, kind of forget about him a little bit. Before we get into the to a little bit of football talk and question I want to throw out to some of you. Do you see what Greg Norman confirmed last night, that the Live Tour did offer between $700 and $800 million to one Tiger Woods, and Tiger turned it down. Yeah, Greg Norman saying yesterday that boy, $700 to $8 million. Yeah. Oh man. The other day we were talking about, Juan Soto turning down $4 or some million. But I know it's different. Tiger's already got a lot in the bank. I think he's already got over $1 billion in the bank, but still $700 to $800 million for Tiger, who, let's face it, he's got an uphill climb to be competitive and maybe to win a major again. And you had a tournament or a tour offering $700 to $800 million. Woo-hoo-hoo. Yeah. But Tiger, no. He is not in favor of the Live Tour. Not in favor of that. And he was supportive of the Royal and Ancients decision not to invite Greg Norman to the event. If you remember back at the Open, he said the RNA obviously have their opinions and their rulings and their decision. Greg has done some things that I don't think is in the best interest of our game, and we're coming back to probably the most historic and traditional place in our sport. I believe it's the right thing. And if you remember, Woods was also critical of the players who had left the PGA Tour for Live Golf. It probably makes it a little bit easier for T-Dub to say no to $700 to $800 million, knowing how much he's got in the bank and how much he already makes. But Nellies, $700 to $800 million for a player to, let's face it, it's to move the needle. It's to draw attention. Tiger Woods draws attention. T-Dub, he's on the course. We're watching. We're focusing. If it's the Thursday round, if it's a Friday round, we're watching. And if it happens to be the final round in contention, you better believe it, majority of people are going to be watching. Tiger in red, come on. You add Tiger, I mean, that would have been the, if somehow the Live Tour would have been able to add Tiger Woods to their tour, ooh, it changes the game for them. It changes the whole tour. Phil is a name. You got Dustin Johnson over there, but you had Tiger Woods, even if he's not competitive anymore, completely changes the game. All right, football. So yesterday, Packers in pads for the first time. Sounds like the defense won the day. But Matt LaFleur, beforehand, doing his pre-practice presser, answering a few questions here or there. And one of the questions that, not only maybe are the Packers and Matt LaFleur waiting to answer, but a lot of us are just kind of waiting to see when it's going to happen, is when is Christian Watson going to get on the field? And at what point do you start to get concerned if he's going to be missing too much time and maybe not really getting a whole lot of playing time on the field in the regular season because he's missed so much time? Is that a concern? Matt LaFleur, when he was asked about the concern over Christian Watson missing the first week of camp and counting, had this to say, saying it's tough because there's nothing like getting those real live reps. But I've got confidence in not only Christian, but Jason Vrabel, who's the wide receivers coach, and we'll get him up to speed. I know when he was drafted, and I just saw it the other day too, if we're looking at the betting favorites or the odds, if you will, the different various other books out there and all that fun stuff have their different odds makers and that. But Christian Watson was, as soon as he was drafted, he was a top 10 offensive rookie of the year betting favorite. Just saw the other day he's still listed in the top 10. But this is obviously not the way that he and the Packers wanted to get his rookie career started. A lot of people are looking at Christian Watson as being the next great receiver in Green Bay. And we haven't seen him on the field yet in preseason. He hasn't gotten a whole lot of work in with Aaron Rodgers. The other day, Aaron talking about some of his receivers. Believe he didn't mention Christian Watson, mentioned Romeo Doubs. He mentioned Winfrey. And no, he was pretty much talking about the dudes that were on the field. Sammy Watkins just returning. I don't know, and it might be a little overreact. It's just the second week of training camp, and I understand that. But I think this is some crucial time here that Christian Watson is missing. And at one point, do you have to wonder, or at what point, I guess the question I'm asking is, do you start to get really concerned about, is he going to be ready for the regular season in terms of being up to speed? Not necessarily the health aspect, but in terms of like, when are you going to be comfortable, or at what point do you start to get nervous? Like, oh, you're asking a lot for a rookie who didn't play a lot, didn't get a lot of work in the preseason and the training camp, and you're going to throw him out there. At what point do you start to get a little bit concerned with Christian Watson not out there? So I think we're getting to the point now where some fans, we're getting a little anxious. We want to see Watson out there. We want to see him, making some plays. We're seeing some, everybody's been talking about another rookie wide receiver, Romeo Doubs, for the past week. We want to see Watson, what he's got. We want to see him develop that connection with his quarterback, because we would love to see Watson be a main contributor to the team this year. I mean, we've known for a while and for the majority of his career that rookie wide receivers tend to not put up monster numbers with Aaron. Could be a little bit of the trust factor. Could just be simply because, well, the depth for Green Bay receivers over the years have been, pretty well. So the playing time, the opportunities have been limited. But I really hope we don't get to a point, I guess, where we have some fans already calling, this pick a bust. I hope we're not to that point. I haven't seen it, but I guess, never be surprised about anything out there on social media. I hope people aren't getting to that point right now with Watson. But hey, I'm with a lot of you. I'm anxious to see him. I was hoping to see him last week at training camp when we were there. I was hoping to see him in action. This talented, this big, this fast, wide receiver. I want to see some act, and I want him to develop some connection with Aaron Rodgers. I would love to be, talking about Christian Watson in the regular season being a offensive rookie of the year candidate and going out there and laying it up. And you know what? He still could, but right now, I think he's definitely missing some valuable time in trying to develop that connection with Aaron. And other receivers are taking advantage of it. Dobbs being one of them. Winfrey being another. I mean, when Watson's not in jeopardy of losing his job, let's get real here. But you'd like to see him on the field, hopefully soon. Hopefully soon. Haven't heard a whole lot of updates about it, but guarantee you Watson's probably doing a lot in the meetings and being involved in watching film and doing as much as he possibly can to, be ready to learn the system, to learn the offense as much as he possibly can without actually practicing with the team. But so far, knock on wood, Green Bay, weekend, the training camp, no new injuries. Where we've had some teams, they've gone through some injuries, gone through some players getting banged up. Van Jefferson from the Rams, he's going to be missing some few weeks. Might even miss the first part of the season, first week of the season. Obviously, Ryan Jensen with the Buccaneers, their center. But again, knock on wood, Packers have stayed fairly healthy at the start of camp. They've missed a bunch of guys before practice, before training camp even started, but ever since practice has been going on, they've been pretty good. And I think a lot of that has to deal with Matt LaFleur and the practice schedule, and that's something that he has really talked about since being on the scene, since being head coach of Green Bay. The scheduling and downtime and rest time, recovery time. He's talked about that, and he's been an advocate of that ever since he's been with the Packers. And he mentioned it again yesterday in his presser because Packers starting up with pads this week, and they got a few more to go. But he kind of talked about cutting down some of the practice times and being fully aware of the wear and tear or a lot of the work that these guys will be putting on this week with the pads. So maybe it's a different change in philosophy for some other coaches, because I saw, I think it was Juju Smith-Schuster tweeting out yesterday that was the hardest practice that he had ever participated in his NFL career. And some people were kind of saying that, Andy Reid is a coach who, his practices, he's in favor of guys, I think he's one of those that would love to have pads on probably every day, high intense practices and such. Everybody's got their own different philosophies. But Matt LaFleur sure seems to be the guy that, he's very aware of rest and recovery time and trying not to overdo it. And it sounds like that's going to be the case for this week with padded practices for the green and gold too. Anybody going family night, by the way, this week? Anybody heading over to Lambeau Field? Going to be checking it out? Anybody going over there? Got any plans for that? Then next week we've got the first preseason game, and then in a couple weeks it's the preseason game, the lone preseason game at Lambeau Field. I feel like August is gonna fly on through. We're gonna cruise on through this month. We're gonna like fly on through, and then football, baby. We got the Hall of Fame game coming up here in a couple days. Butler's getting inducted into the Hall of Fame. We got that happening here. It's gonna be awesome. Butler's gonna be the first speech. I think anybody who has listened to Leroy Butler or who's had a chance to talk to him or interview him, that speech is gonna be darn good. Butler's speech is gonna be good. So him going first, awesome. We get to see it first. Get it out of the way. But it's gonna be entertaining. And it's gonna be good. So I can't wait to see Butler get in there. And I haven't heard yet when the Packers are going to be putting his name in Lambeau Field. But, Jerry Kramer waited a long time for that. Leroy Butler has stayed in the state. He has been Mr. Packer ever since he has retired. I can't imagine the wave of emotions going on with Leroy right this week and what's about to happen in a couple days. And even like when he gets his name put up in Lambeau Field, for as how often he has been there, whether it's been playing, whether he's been doing like the tours, they do the alumni tours, or just, checking it out, hanging out there, to see his name finally put up there. I mean, I can't even fathom what kind of emotions he'll be going through or what anybody kind of goes through there, but especially a guy like Leroy Butler. Man, that's got to be so awesome. I mean, your name is there forever amongst other Pro Football Hall of Famers, the best of the best. Dang, that's so cool. Can't wait to see that this week, and whenever that's going to happen in the regular season with his name up there. All right. Quick break. We'll be back in just a few minutes talking some more green and gold. River Country Co-op wants to help you put some gas in your tank, people. It's the River Country Co-op Cenex Small Town Gas Pass giveaway. That's right, another week and 2 more locations. The River Country Co-op Cenex Small Town Gas Pass giveaway of the week. For this week, you've got Edgar and Bloomer, the Bloomer Main and the Bloomer shop stores over there. So stop on in, walk in, sign up to register to win $50 in gas, $50 gas card. No purchase necessary, but I mean, come on, when you walk into River Country Co-op, probably going to get some snacks, right? Maybe some food from the hot stuff bar, all that good stuff. Oh, yeah. So check it out. Get your $50 in gas this week by signing up to win at the Edgar and the Bloomer locations. We'll announce that winner live here on Friday morning, just past 8 o'clock, and then we'll tell you the 2 no locations for next week. So got about a month yet. A few more locations to hit up there. All right, let's chat some green and gold here. A little bit more green and gold as the Packers' second week of training camp is underway. First day of padded practices yesterday, as we've been talking about a little bit. Sounds like the defense was the winners in practice yesterday. But one weekend, Joe, what from the stuff that you were seeing online and social medias and that, what's the one thing that has stood out to you with one weekend for practice?
The speed of the defense, and that's really what you can take away when you don't have pads on. Is you got to see the flying around of the ball and the speed of the defense overall. Quay Walker is definitely a side-to-side type of linebacker, and just the amount of pressure that is in Aaron Rodgers' face. And again, when you look at this defense, and at some point during the year, you're going to have 7 first-rounders on that defensive side of the ball and playing at the same time. It's just the talent level there is probably the best I've seen in a long time, probably since that 96-97 Packer defense. And Albert Breer last night with NFL Network, as he was leaving Green Bay and going on to Minnesota for his camp updates, he made the comment. He said, one last parting thing, this defense has the potential to be really, really good. So I think that's the big takeaway, is just the way that this defense is flying around and the overall speed and athleticism that they bring to the table.
At what point do you start to get concerned with Christian Watson not being on the field and not getting these reps in training camp? And in terms of when the season starts, I mean, you know, at what point do you start to get concerned, like, okay, he's not going to be a contributor at least in the early parts of the regular season?
You know, I think it's going to be, it's one of those things that if it drags on into the regular season, if he gets in a little bit of the exhibition season, if he's healthy to get in some preseason action, I think he'll be fine. And again, is he behind the 8 ball? Of course he is. And when you see, you know, Dobbs playing well and the coaching staff is putting a lot of time and effort and energy into Amari Rodgers and Sammy Watkins, of course, and Alan Lazard and Cobb. Yeah, I mean, he's falling down the order right now. There's no doubt. But I think if he gets in a little bit of the preseason, and if he is cleared healthy and 100% for the regular season, I'm not as concerned. Because, again, then it's going to be, okay, let's mix and match. Let him cook a little bit. And you can do some things with Christian Watson that I think they did with MVS early on, is that, again, you know, you're running a fly pattern, you're running these types of things. And it was really interesting, too. I was looking at the slot percentage last year for Alan Lazard, and Lazard was in the slot about 30% of the time. And Watson's development is very key, because if you've got Watson and Dobbs and you can play Watkins on the outside and Alan Lazard can play from that slot, I think that's going to be one of the best looks the Green Bay Packer offense can flash. And so, again, I think Watson and this whole receiving core, it just sounds like there's some good chemistry being built there. As long as Watson, going back to it, gets some exhibition season, I think he'll be fine.
Do you involve Aaron Rodgers when it comes down to cut day in terms of which receivers they should keep?
Involved, that's a relative term, but yeah, absolutely. I think I get his opinion. That goes back to one of the things that he talked about is he just didn't feel his opinion mattered with some of those decisions. And I think you get his opinion on it. And it was interesting when he was on with Mooch and Stacey Dales this past weekend. I mean, he mentioned 6 wide receivers. And so there might be your 6 right there. But you never know how this thing's going to shake out. One of the receivers he did mention, who we haven't talked about, is Winfrey. And so it sounds like he's having a good camp too. But yeah, I think you pull him aside and you say, hey, what are your thoughts? Here's the 6 or 7 that we're thinking. Are we missing something? And I think that based on what we're hearing now, I think Goody does do that with Aaron Rodgers.
So you mentioned Winfrey. To follow up on that, then Aaron already dropped the word trust, that he trusts Juwan Winfrey. So I mean, you got Juwan Winfrey, you've got Sammy Watkins, you've got Alan Lazard, you've got Randall Cobb, you got Christian Watson, you got Romeo Doubs, and then you've got Amari Rodgers. That's 7 right there. Are they going to keep 7 wide receivers?
It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me at all. The other thing I thought was interesting is that reports yesterday, several teams are keeping an eye on Will Fuller as the exhibition season and preseason goes on. And so there's a guy that played, when Matt LaFleur was at Notre Dame. And so there's some familiarity there. And I think anytime you have competition, I think that's good. And you look at the competition on the offensive line, they're rotating a lot of guys in there. And I think the same holds true for wide receivers. The more competition you have, the better these players are going to be.
So if they bring in a guy like Will Fuller, who do you think is on the bottom of that depth chart right now?
Oof, great question. It could be, and I don't see them giving up on him, but you could move Amari Rodgers down there. You could move Christian Watson down there. Not saying you cut Christian Watson or Amari Rodgers, but he moves down the depth chart if you bring in a guy like a Will Fuller. And again, Rodgers has said he likes this receiver group. The reports so far have been, for the most part, very positive about this receiving group. So I still think they take a flyer on a veteran wide receiver. That's been my feeling all along. Is I think this team, with where they're at right now and how close I think they really are to being a Super Bowl contender, I think if there's somebody out there that intrigues them, again, the bottom line is you want the best players. You want the best 53. And if one of those best 53 isn't on your roster yet, you got to do everything in your power to go get them. And so I think they're going to continue to explore the options, continue to see what's out there, monitor, and again, if an injury happens, of course, that's a no-brainer at that point. So I think that becomes a pretty easy decision for the Packers to make. And so again, a lot can happen over the next 3 or 4 weeks of the preseason.
Offensive line has been another obviously big position group that a lot of us were paying attention to before camp opened, and we're about a week in, and we've had a lot of movement, which shouldn't be a whole lot of surprise to anybody out there. Different guys playing different spots, et cetera, et cetera. But Jake Hansen right away getting the with the number 1s at guard. I mean, that was a guy that we kind of thought, oh, is he on the bubble here? But sure seems like the Packers are giving him an opportunity to maybe get one of those starting spots at least to open the season, but also maybe they view him as a main contributor, as a top 10 offensive lineman on this team.
Yeah, you're mixing and matching a lot. Zach Tom has gotten some reps at left tackle. Sean Ryan has gotten some reps at right guard. Cole Van Lannon has gotten some reps at that right tackle. Royce Newman has swung out and played that right tackle position. You mentioned Jake Hansen. Right now it seems that the only consistent performer, and again, this goes back to Bakhtiari and Jenkins being hurt, is John Runyon Jr. at that left guard and Josh Myers at that center position. And you always talk about the best 5 are going to play, the best 5 are going to start. And I think because of the injury situation, because of the question marks behind Bakhtiari and Jenkins, you've got to mix and match and see who are your best 5. And we know this, and this goes back a long time with Green Bay, is they value flexibility. They value guys who can play multiple positions, and I think that's great. And I think at this point of the season, again, if Zach Tom is that fill-in left tackle, and it's better for the Packers to play Yosh Nijman at that right tackle position, because that's going to be his position this year, then I say go for it. Because what you don't want to do is you don't want to start Josh Nijman on at that left tackle, and then if he's going to be your right tackle, and then you got to switch him later on. The best scenario is continuity when you're talking offensive line. And so if you can only disrupt one or two positions rather than three or four, you're better off. And so again, best five are going to start. And I think right now there's a lot of good depth on this offensive line. And we haven't even really talked about, Rasheed Walker, the 7th round pick from Penn State. And so again, I think Green Bay's in a really good position. They'd be in a better position, of course, if we knew a lot more about Bakhtiari.
Biggest overreaction from the first week?
Yeah, I gotta say honestly, and I love him, so I'm not at all taking anything away with what he's been able to do. But Romeo Doubs, in my opinion, Packers social media, was really crowning him at this point, and I was seeing, could he be the best receiver in the draft this year, and et cetera, et cetera. And again, don't get me wrong. Dobbs had some injury concerns, which slid him down some draft boards. And so I think he legitimately is a 2nd round talent and drafted in the 4th round. But I just think the hype machine is a little strong at this point, and we'll see come the regular season. But again, do I like Dobbs and what he brings to the table? And he reminds me a lot when you watch, and again, unfair comparison, but he reminds me a lot of Marvin Harrison. And so I think that if he can bring a consistency to the table, that's great. But based on Packer social media this past week, you would think he's the, basically James Lofton, Sterling Sharp-esque coming out of college.
Joe DeGuano joining us here this morning, chatting some green and gold here. So we first weekend, we've got padded practices, and, for the most part, Packers have stayed fairly healthy at this point. Knock on wood. I know they're missing.
I was just going to say, I hope you've got some wood around, man, because that's a dangerous statement, especially if I hear a big injury today, I'm calling you.
Yeah, no kidding, right? But, Matt LaFleur has been very conscientious of like rest time and off days and that sort of thing. And, we got old school coaches who may not be a part of that, but it sure seems like Matt LaFleur. Would you term Matt LaFleur as a player-friendly coach, a player's coach?
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. I think he's proven that. I think he listens to his players. And I think, look, I think no matter what level you're at, I think having a finger on the pulse of your team, I think is a critical component of a successful coach. And I think Matt LaFleur from day one since he entered 1265 Lombardi has had a pretty good handle on where his team is. And yeah, I think the term players coach gets overused a little bit. And I think sometimes people can spin it as a negative in addition to being a positive. And so, yeah, I think he's got the finger on the pulse of this team. And look, you look towards the end, and Mike McCarthy in 2010, 2011, there's no question he had the finger on the pulse of the team. And I just think, after a while, things change. But I think right now, Matt LaFleur, he definitely has the temperature of his team. And again, you like what you're hearing. You like the attitude. You like the energy. You like everything about LaFleur. And so, yeah, I think players coach, finger on the pulse, whatever cliche term you want to use, I think LaFleur is the right man for this job.
You posted a picture of both Joe Barry and Matt LaFleur. Which side of the ball will be better? I'm voting for defense. I don't know what you're voting for right now, but I think it's defense.
Here's the thing: is I think what's going to happen, and you're seeing reports now that LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers both pretty much saying the same thing, that 80% of the plays in the playbook were centered around 17. We're centered around Devontae Adams, and so and you heard Rodgers say, "Look, we're going to throw the ball about the same. There's going to be the same yards. There's going to be the same touchdowns. It's going to be spread out more." So my theory is this: I think defensively, I think this team comes out of the gate faster than the offense. I think by the end of the year, though, I think this offense is going to be clicking on all cylinders. And so you might see some ugly games at the beginning of the year, where this team wins 17-13 or something along those lines, or a big interception really turns the game around. And I think the defense is going to be ahead of the offense. But I think towards the end of the year, you're going to see more of a balance between this offense and defense. And, of course, I didn't even get Bisaccia in there because he's really what I said, what side of the ball. And really you've got obviously the three sides of the ball with special teams being in there. And what you're hearing from Bisaccia and the guys he's bringing in and guys he's played with or coached with before, I should say, these there's some special team studs on this team already. And I think the Green Bay Packers are going to have a really good special teams side of the ball as well. So when I say what side of the ball, you got to throw that third side in there. But I say defense wins first. I say offense balances out by the end of the year.
He's Joe DeGuano. Appreciate the time as always, sir. We got family night coming up on Friday, and then our first preseason game, preseason action will be next week. So we'll be highlighting that and focusing on that. Appreciate the time this morning, bud.
Well, you know what? And here's the thing. I'm super excited because I'm heading up to Eau Claire right now because the Old Apes, we start practice today as well. So it is that time of year, man. It is football season. I'm ready to go.
Yep, me too, man. I've been seeing everybody posting about it on Twitter and all that stuff. So I think we're finally getting in the mood. You travel safe there, big boy, okay?
All right, brother. Take care, man.
You too. There you go. There's Joe DeGuano chatting a little bit here this morning. We're going to take a quick break and then finish up the second hour. Brewers fans, you still got some time. Chime in. What are your thoughts on that Josh Hader trade today? And do you predict the Brewers to make another move today? Are they going to focus on offense? What do you think? Hit me up. 715-830-1912 with a quick text on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line. We'll be back after these words.
Got a take on today's topics but can't call in? Then hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, or the text line and let your fingers do the talking.
A clinic developed to offer the highest quality orthopedic care, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine has been committed to the healthcare needs of patients in Wisconsin for over 45 years. Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine's reputation can be attributed to the teamwork of their friendly and knowledgeable physicians and staff. They are dedicated to providing each patient with exceptional attention and service. Start living a pain-free, healthier life with Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. Visit cvosm.com for more information.
Are you a veteran or do you know a veteran?
When it comes to your flooring needs, nobody beats Wisconsin's premier flooring store, Carpet City Flooring Center, right here in Eau Claire. See, they got a new sign out front, too. That's looking pretty snazzy over there, guys. But if you're looking for that new floor in your home, carpet, tile, luxury vinyl, whatever you want, they got it. You name it, they got it. All at the best prices, too, because they will match or beat that competition. But the thing that separates Carpet City Flooring Center from the best, or from the rest, is, well, they are the best, but what separates them from the rest is their customer service. I mean, you walk in, you're instantly greeted. You get to talk with Matt, Ben, Aaron, even Jason over there. I mean, the entire team there is just like a one big happy family, and they treat you like a member of that family too. So if you're looking to update some flooring, or you need some flooring, look no further. Carpet City Flooring Center, right here in Eau Claire. I got less than 10 minutes to the top of the hour here. Just kind of looking at some of the latest rumors involving Major League Baseball and the trade deadline coming up tonight. We'll see if the Brewers make any more moves. It sounds like, I mean, David Stearns acknowledged it, that, yeah, they're kind of looking for some offense, but didn't know if they would be able to get some deals done before the finish line, before crossing that finish line tonight. I still feel like they're going to make some moves. I hope they acquire a bat, a little offensive help. Whether it's, I don't know if it's Joey Gallo, but, I got a feeling, and I don't want to speak for I don't want to speak for every Brewers fan out there, but I got a feeling like if we come on tomorrow morning and let's say the only addition that the Brewers made by the deadline was trading for somebody like Joey Gallo, I feel like, and maybe I'm completely wrong, but I feel like majority of Brewers fans would be a little disappointed or a little bit down that the moves the Brewers made were trading away Josh Hader and acquiring Joey Gallo in a separate deal. I feel like Brewers fans would be a little bit down in that. And while on the surface, when I saw that deal go down and I saw the players, I'm like, okay, does it make them better? I think the one thing for sure we can answer with this deal is that, hey, they've got a couple more arms in the pen, a couple more options in the bullpen. And I think the emergence of Devin Williams makes a deal for, moving on from Josh Hader a little bit more, easier. Is that the right word? A little bit more easier to move on from him because you got a guy like Devin Williams. And yes, you bring in Rogers, who's got closing experience too. He's got 28 saves so far this season. But they've got some more options in the back end of their pen now. But I think one thing that we have to remember, and I'm one of them too, I am raising my hand right now, is that when it comes to trades or, like draft picks, let's wait and see how they work out. It's like draft picks, right? They always say, well, you can't grade a draft until after a couple of years. I think trades are kind of the same way. Maybe on the surface or maybe on paper, it's head scratching for, it seems like, the majority of you. Everybody who's kind of chimed in on texting and social media, it's, to put it lightly, it's a head scratcher. Some using words I can't say unless, I get fired or fined. But I think we kind of just have to see how it plays out a little bit. See how it kind of works out. Maybe it works out better for the Brewers. We don't know, for various reasons. It very well could work out a whole lot better for the Padres. Let's see it play out. Let's see what happens here. It seems like we always kind of bring up this question every few months. But is it in Stearns you trust? Do you trust David Stearns? Do you trust the Brewers front office? Because if you do you trust them? Should you trust them with what they did yesterday with moving on from Josh Hader? but I'm willing to see how it plays out. You have to. I mean, what else are we just going to say, oh, no, I'm not going to throw my fist down and all that stuff. Let's see it play out. Maybe it'll work out. Maybe the pitching, maybe the bullpen will actually be a little bit better because they've got a couple more arms in there. A little bit more experience in that pen. You know, I'm kind of thinking way down the line here. But we got Freddie Peralta coming back this week. That's like an addition. So your top three of Burns, Woodruff, and Peralta, pretty darn good. Eric Lauer is having a solid season. He's your fourth. And then, you know, when you get to the postseason, you probably go a four-man rotation. But then you've got arms of an Aaron Ashby. You know, if Adrian Hauser gets healthy, your two acquisitions from yesterday with Bush and Rogers. You've got Devin Williams in there. You've got some experience in that bullpen now. And you've got guys who have pitched quite a few innings. So I think when we get to the postseason here, the Brewers are going to have, and the thing is too, with Ashby and Hauser potentially coming out of the pen in the postseason, they can log you a couple innings. Maybe get a little creative there. Remember, it was just a couple of years ago when they threw out Wade and Miley for what, one inning, one pitch, one out, and then boom, switched it up. Not saying that would happen again this year because you probably wouldn't do that with Corbin Burns or Woodruff or Peralta, but I guess never say never, right? Never say never. But let's see how it plays out. Obviously a fan favorite. He was electric when Josh Hader was on. I know at the beginning of the year we were talking about, you know, saves record. Could he be the new Brewers saves holder, career saves holder? He was off to a fast start. But yeah, let's see how it works out. And, you know, the question I kind of threw out last hour that I'm really curious to get your thoughts on. Does David Stearns have the right philosophy for building this team? You know, he talked about making sure that this team is competitive for years to come, not getting into a full-on rebuild mode after a couple years, every couple years, where it may take a little bit. That's not what he wants to do. He doesn't want to put the Brewers in that position. He said it yesterday in his statement with the Josh Hader trade. Is that the right mindset to have for a Brewers team that is small market? Obviously can't be big players for huge contracts, maybe once in a while here and there like Yelich. But is that the right mindset to have? Or do they need to be, you know what, if we've got that team and we've got a good set here, we've got some really good pieces, we need to be more aggressive, even if it costs us a few years. That's not Stearns' mindset. His mindset is making sure that they are competitive every single year. And then, you know, if they, like at this point or the last couple of years, maybe make a couple moves by the deadline and see if they can push it and get to that World Series. Your thoughts? Hit me up with some texts. 715-830-1912. I'm really curious to kind of get your thoughts on that. Do you agree with David Stearns' philosophy of how to run this Brewers team, how he's building this team? Thumbs up, thumbs down, yay or nay. Okay? Let me know. All right, 2 in already. Flying on by here this morning. Quick break, and then a reminder, we're going to get to some Badgers chat with RJ Cardinal. We're going to take a look at the defense coming up about 8:20, 8:25 here this morning. Take a look at Jimmy Leonard's group, all the different positions. How is this unit going to look this year? Stick around. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
WAYY.
kept coming back to when she was telling me about her experience with Carpet City Flooring Center. The carpet looks amazing in her living room, but it was working with the entire team from Carpet City Flooring Center that she still can't stop talking about. The process was simple thanks to the entire team there. They drove out to my grandma's house, did the measuring, gave her a quote, and they took a look at some samples. Then came the install. Not only did they do a fantastic job of installing the carpet, but the one thing that stood out to Grandma, they vacuumed after they completed the job. She kept going on about how the last time she got got new carpet replaced from another place, how they didn't even clean up. Customer service. You can expect to find amazing customer service at Carpet City Flooring Center because that's who they are. They treat people the right way. So if you're looking at getting a new floor in your home, take it from grandma. Because like my grandma always told me growing up, because grandma said so. And we never, ever argue with what grandma says. Check out Carpet City Flooring Center today, located at 3109 East Hamilton Avenue in Eau Claire. Big thanks to Sammy, the general manager for the Eau Claire Express, for stopping on by. The Express, again, holding on to a 4-game lead in the second half, and they've got all home games this week through Sunday after the showcase today. So get down to Carson Park, get down to the ballpark, fill that stadium, get loud. G-Man, she specifically asked for you to get there, do a little trash talking if you have to, get your friends over there and get that stadium loud, okay? They're big guys, so rest of you, you do the same. Get your tickets, and hopefully we'll be talking about postseason berth already by next week when they're going to be on the road for 5 games and then finishing up things next Saturday at Carson Park. We're getting closer to the start of football season. Obviously, Packers training camp is going on, but we're also getting close to a kickoff with the Wisconsin Badgers. And last week, we broke down the offense with our dude, Mr. RJ Cardinal. So, RJ, what do you say? Should we talk a little defense here this morning with this team?
Yeah, I mean, it might as well. I guess technically camp kind of starts today. It's media day, so we'll be, we'll have some people down there and hopefully getting good sound bites and stories moving into camp starting Wednesday. So yeah, it's the ball's getting rolling. Both our state football teams are going to be in full swing here pretty soon, and we'll see what the Brewers keep doing in the rest of this day.
And you got high school football practice starting up too, so it's everybody's.
Oh, that's right. I thought that was tomorrow as well, but yeah, you're right. That is today as well.
Yeah, so it's just coming around here, big guy. So you mentioned camp. So like, what is like the first few days of camp like for these guys coming back into town, or the team coming back together from when your time there? What was the first couple days or first few days like for camp?
Well, in my time, things have changed. It used to be the freshmen would come in for like the first 2 days, and it was just incoming freshmen and new players. Then they have 2 days of pretty much a crash course in, hey, this is college football. And this is also while we were at the seminary, and now it's all built up, and our station building is actually not too far from it. But I remember even growing up on the west side of Madison, the seminary felt like it was out in the middle of nowhere because it was surrounded by farm fields for the longest time. So your first introduction into college football, this is even 20 years ago now, is probably, I think my sophomore year was the last time we were out there. Your introduction was getting dropped in the middle of nowhere, and you pretty much got on a bus from campus and were taken out there. So you didn't have a vehicle. And now with Media Day being the first day, that wasn't until more near the end of camp, right before Family Fun Day, when you go to sign autographs and have play catch with fans, have fans try on like the equipment and pose with. Well, at that time it was just the axe for trophy games, but they have if you have a trophy with you, it's the all the trophies and other things out there to keep people preoccupied and in Camp Randall for a few hours. But for the most part, first couple of days, freshmen and newcomers, transfers, and then later in the week comes in your returners, and then other scholarship guys and priority walk-ons, and you were only allowed so many people at camp at that point in time. but now I believe like everybody can join as long as they are, in school. Still, some of the walk-ons don't come in until school starts, though. So you have pretty much almost everybody there. And that's even when you could still have two-a-days. So that's now not a thing anymore either. But it's changed drastically since I've been there.
So taking a look at this defense, let's start up with the big boys up front with that defensive line, RJ. Who are some of the guys? Who's the top of the depth chart starters? What do you like about this group? What don't you like about a group? Or just give us this scouting report on the big boys up front where it starts with this D.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. I believe he's on some preseason All-American lists in terms of Keanu Benton. He's a guy to definitely keep an eye out on. Most people thought he would be leaving, declaring for the draft last year, but he is one who decided to come back. He also was leading a lot of things in terms of D-line activities this offseason, and he's one of those. I don't know if you saw the O-line pictures of them doing some wrestling workouts in the wrestling room, but that was initiated by Cannon, who was a wrestler, Janesville Craig. He think he was a 3 or 4 time state qualifier. I think 3 definitely, and the state championship match twice, coming in second both times. But he kind of led that charge to get in there and try to just do bonding and things, and teach guys, how it relates to things. And apparently, at least in interviews he's done with UW, because people wish they would have known about this earlier. That's something I like putting out there. Because, as a wrestling coach, I get it out there. try wrestling in the off season. It's amazing what moving a person can do rather than just lifting weights. But there's some people who don't like hearing that. So, you have Keanu Benton and Kurt Neal, an incoming freshman at nose tackle, both of whom, you'll see Benton out there all the time. But Kurt Neal is probably going to be a guy who automatically on the 2 deep, because I'm not sure who else is going to be filling in up there for that. But heading on over to the end, you have some guys who have been there. They just haven't really gotten the snaps. And like Gio Paez, who was a decent recruit, Rodis Johnson out of Ohio, who's been in the program for 3 years now. You'll see some names that probably won't recognize, but still, you're going to have some guys here who are very capable of being big bodies and still allowing those linebackers enough room to do their thing. So you're definitely going to have to double team Keanu Benton this year. So that there in itself, that's what your nose tackle is supposed to do. I think we'll see some mismatches along that D line, in that 3-4 base, where if your nose tackle's taken up 2, you've already done a good portion of what that guy's supposed to be doing in taking a center and a guard with him wherever he goes. So already starting to make some holes for that linebacking core. But as long as Keanu Benton is your nose piece there, I really think this D-line, especially the DN portion, they're deep enough where you can trot other guys out there around him and have a very good D-line. That's sole purpose is going to be making sure those rush outside linebackers and Keanu Benton, making sure those inside guys have enough time and space to get towards that quarterback.
You mentioned Benton, and I know they list him as a nose tackle, but you look at his frame and his body, and depending on where he's listed, what website, 6'4", 316, 320. Do you view him as a defensive lineman, though, that can move across the line of scrimmage and not always just line up at nose tackle?
Yeah, absolutely. you look at him, he doesn't look like he's not like a Gilbert Brown 320, you know.
Right.
He's like that kind of, and it's a person. I'm not saying he is, but it's more like a J.J. Watt build, where he could line up at nose tackle, he can line up as a D end, and still be serviceable in terms of you're going to need to put two bodies on him, or have another All-American lining up against him in order to have a chance of keeping him away from the quarterback. I think it's one of those, you can slow him down by chipping him and all that, but still, I think he's able to, and we've seen it where he's, kind of fake to rush and stay to the line and knock passes down. He's got that capability. It's one of those, I think he's the real key to this D-line being a pretty good unit this year.
Then we look at the linebackers outside and inside. Does it start with Mr. Nick Herbig over there at outside linebacker?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's your shot at he's a system guy and he's going to get drafted below his potential landing spot this year if he decides to leave early. Everybody's pointing to him to be the next man up, to be that guy, to look at him and say that's Wisconsin's next great linebacker. So especially at the outside, you have him and a lot of people. There's a couple of guys who've been in the program and have just not been able to see the field. It's pretty young. CJ Getz is a senior on there. And then it gets a little young after that with guys like Aaron Witt and Caden Johnson, who they're expecting big things from. And then you bring in out of Iowa this a redshirt freshman from a couple of years ago, which was a big get for them in T.J. Bowlers. That those are some of the bigger names that we could probably see on this two deep at inside linebacker. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen here. But it's another one of those a pretty young group. But I mean, the linebackers haven't really been the issue. It's like the next guy up. It's more the inside linebackers where you have Spencer Lytle at inside linebacker, a couple other guys who we've heard from in Jake Chaney, but for the most part, it's going to be a lot of guys we haven't heard from. So it's another one the Mr. Hockey out of Minnesota and Jake Retzlaff, who chose Wisconsin over playing hockey for the Gophers, and it's names like Brian Sanborn, Jack's younger brother, and it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. And I think we talked. Maybe we talked about it last week, or was this after the fact? But Chris, either we talked about it last week, or once again right after we talked, Chris put out some comments of saying this is going to be a year where there is a lot of competition at positions, and it's not just going to be to that next upperclassman who's lined up to go play and be the starter at a position. So I was actually pretty happy to hear that. I think in the past we've seen maybe to a fault the coaching staff be a little too loyal to guys who have been in the program for a while. So I like hearing that whether it's lip service or not, there is going to be competition at a lot of positions this year, and inside linebacker is probably going to be one of those where heck we could see some freshmen popping into that 2D.
RJ Cardinal, our Badger analyst, joining us here this morning, breaking down this Badger defense for us. And now we take a look at the secondary with Jimmy Leonard's group here. And at first blush, at least, in the starters, looking at a depth chart, they've got some experience there. It looks like a few seniors listed as the number ones there. But what's your take on this on this unit for Jimmy Leonard?
Well, you also got to remember they brought in 3 transfers:
Mm-hmm.
Cedric Dort, Jay Shaw out of UCLA, Dort's out of Kentucky, and then the
Clark,
kid
Justin
out of
Clark.
Toledo. Justin Clark. Thank you. And so you interject them right into there, and it could be one of those where you're looking at your cornerbacks, and yeah, there's some guys on there who've been in the program a lot, but we also haven't seen them play. So this is another one where you insert some guys who, according to their at least transfer rankings, are considered 3 to 4 stars and kind of projected by people from the outside looking in to really push to be those starters. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, it's really looking like it's another position where there's going to be a lot of open competition, and it's one of those, especially on the defensive side of the ball, where I think, yeah, and maybe not, but whatever, where this is going to breed a group of a couple of seniors, some transfers, and the younger guys really make them hungry, and who knows how deep we could see the cornerbacks go. I mean, usually you don't see them go too deep, but and that's TOO, not TWO. But it'll be interesting to see what kind of rotation comes out of this, because there's just not enough snaps for what came in and what was already on the roster. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this one plays out as well.
So when you look at this defense, RJ, is there a weak spot in your opinion? Is there, I mean, we talked about a couple different players here with Benton and obviously with Nick at outside linebacker. If there was one area of concern for you on this defense, what would it be?
I mean,
or do you not have any?
It would be the secondary, just because you've lost a lot of snaps over the past 2 seasons, even, and it's not a big worry, because, you could tell me your starters at safety are going to be John Torchio and Hunter Wohler this year, and I'd be absolutely okay with that. You have Travion Blaylock back there as well, and even the transfer from Utah, Moilatu. Let's go with that. And it's just, there's guys who've gotten the snaps, but not in bulk amount, at least for Wisconsin. Because, you're getting some guys, like I said, cornerback transfers that have gotten the snaps. It's just going to be how we see it play out here in fall camp. And if we see, like we said in the past, where the defense is just having some dominant days. The past, I think we've had enough people kind of relate that to, well, the offense isn't that good, but then our defense goes out onto the field and, continues to be a top 5, top 2, top 1 defense over the last X amount of years since, Dave Aranda came into town. So it's one of those, the secondary is probably the most concerning, but I also wouldn't say I'm deeply concerned about it, since we have seen players come and go, and yet this Badger defense has been able to reload and have football players who, one reason or another, people have looked down on them. They go to Wisconsin, where I think you have one of the best coordinators in the country at any level, being your defensive coordinator, and you have at least players who, when they're interviewed and even recruits, it's like, that's a football mind I want to learn from in Jimmy Leonard. I think his football IQ is rubbing off on kids because he puts them in the right positions to make plays. And I mean, he's got a proven track record as of right now. And I mean, he's had other college programs come after him. He's had pro programs come after him. But I mean, he did an interview not too long ago where he's talking about knowing himself, knowing his program, and having more control over things. So it'll be interesting to see what that means moving forward for him. Because I mean, having more control over stuff, you're not necessarily going to jump into the NFL. Because even as a defensive coordinator, there you lose some kind of control over what you're bringing in terms of personnel and what you have to deal with. So we'll see what goes on there. But yeah, it's one of those. I think any doubts we have at a position on the defensive side of the ball, until, like I said, even at the linebacking position, until it's proved otherwise, I have all the faith in Badger linebackers, and I have all the faith in Jim Leonard as a defensive coordinator.
So, RJ, you mentioned camp's getting ready to open up here. Offense, defense, special teams. What is one or what are a couple of things that that you think that you're going to be paying attention to as camp opens, whether it's from reports or something like that, or what are the two main things or a couple things that the Badgers have to focus on with this camp starting up here?
Well, I mean, we already talked about it a little bit. Those position battles, specifically at inside linebacker and the secondary, because I mean, right now, I would think for the most part, almost all of the inside spots as well as the secondary are going to be the big ones in the open competition. Because I mean, on the offensive side of the ball, I don't think we're going to have a competition at quarterback or running back. In wide receiver, I think we're going to see a lot of people playing wide receiver. It might be a competition to be deemed the number one and number two, but I think we'll see a heavy rotation there. O-line, I mean, Bosted has said you're going to play the position you were recruited for, so I'm not trotting out the best 5 guys anymore. And I think we'll see what goes on there. I guess maybe the biggest one, who comes out as our number one tight end. I mean, we talked about it last week. A lot of injuries in that tight end group, where Cam Large at one point was the only healthy guy there last season. So it'll be interesting to see guys coming back from last year's injuries and who comes out to hopefully be, there's another one in the next line of Wisconsin tight ends that make a name for themselves.
Would you say, though, to wrap it up here, one of the biggest overreactions we might hear in the first few days is if Graham Mertz has a little bit of a slow start to the Chase Wolf, guys start Chase Wolf sort of thing, because we always overreact to the first week, right, RJ? Would you say that's probably going to be the biggest overreaction?
Well, the best part is, like, anytime you hear that, it's followed by, but Chase Wolf was looking shaky as well. So it'll turn into, well, why don't we see what Deacon Hill and why am I blanking on it? Miles Burkett have, and let's see what the young guys have. It's time for them, and so it'll it immediately, based on the first practice, you'll have reporters put out their calculated stat lines, because it's not like they hand out a piece of paper to the reporters who are in attendance. Guys are keeping their own stats. So we'll see what's counted as a drop, what's counted just on the quarterback, and all that. So yeah, it's always fun to see the people who are being like, oh, well, we're screwed, and that's after the first practice. Okay, let's just look forward to 2023, and we'll see where we have that.
Badgers kick off their season September 3rd. It's almost here against Illinois State at Camp Randall. First 3 games going to be all at home at Camp Randall. So it's almost here. They're a big guy. Appreciate you breaking it down for us, buddy. You have a good rest of your week, and we'll catch up again next week. Okay, sir?
Absolutely. We will see you then.
You got it. There you go. There's RJ Cardinal bringing it, baby. Breaking it all down like nobody other with this Badger football team. We are going to take a quick break. And final call, Brewers fans. Your thoughts on the Josh Hader trade? Will the Brewers get another one done tonight? Oh, and by the way, yeah, Brewers do play tonight too. They start their series against the Pirates. So Gordon Burns on the mound. Take that break. We'll be back in just a few minutes to wrap up things on this Tuesday morning.
You're listening to the
Offensive player to add to the rotation there a little bit. So we'll see if the Brewers are able to get that done or not by this afternoon. And after that Hader trade went down yesterday, there were reports out there from a lot of the media members that the Brewers were working the trades or were working the phone lines, looking for some more wheelings and dealings. Omar Narvaez has been a name out there that has been floated that the Brewers are looking to move or open to moving. Colton Wong has been a name that's been thrown out there too. So we'll see what and if the Brewers have planned by the deadline today. But let's focus on the game. Brewers, these players in this clubhouse, let's focus on the games. 60 more games to go. Let's finish this baby strong, and let's get into the postseason. Right? Starts tonight with Corbin Burns taking the mound. Packers will be back in pads practice later on today, it sounds like. But Matt LaFleur yesterday kind of talking about, this is going to be a tough week for the players because they got a few padded practices. They're going to be working a lot, so he's very conscientious of that. So he's going to try to work in some breaks and all that. We've got family night coming up on Friday. Anybody going to that, by the way? Anybody going down to family night this week? But Packers, they will be back in pads today. And I'm sure the offense is looking maybe to rebound after their performance yesterday. It sounds like the defense easily won the day in the first padded practice. But now Rashawn Gary's name, we've kind of been going every couple days who's been like the player to stand out. And Rashawn Gary's name has been a guy that has been talked about a lot in these last few days here, that he has really kind of shown out. And, this is a man that has been elevating his game every single year since he's been drafted. There's going to be more attention paid to him this year by opposing offenses. They're going to key on 52 to try to minimize him. He has gotten better every single year. I'm excited to see how Rashawn Gary can up his game even more. But I also think he's going to have some more help on defense this year, all across the board. So for a guy that's entering his fourth year, probably going to get a huge contract, Rashawn Gary, his arrow is trending straight up, people. This dude, I think, he's going to have a spectacular season this year. I really feel like Rashawn Gary is going to be, more people are going to know his name. I got that feeling. I think more people are going to know Rashawn Gary across the NFL, not Packers fan, across the NFL. I'm excited to see this guy hit the field and go after the quarterback this year. And it sounds like Preston Smith has been having a good practice too. Again, the question is, where's the depth? Who's going to be the depth pieces there at outside linebacker? But it sounds like the run defense, the big boys up front, were clogging the lanes yesterday. Mr. Reed was a big part of that. We got some one-on-one action. Wyatt, the rookie from Georgia, was a guy who really stood out. So with that strength, get ready for some one-on-one records now coming up here in training camp practice. All right. Shot clock's going to cut me off there. There you go. DP and Adanis are up next. He's like, hey, Pat McAfee, I think is going to be on the program I saw coming up here in a little bit. Got to keep it clean there, Pat, right? You have a good rest of your day, though. Keep it focused online for any more trades. We'll be talking about them tomorrow if there is any. Have a good day, people. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
You're listening to the Dan Patrick Show on WAYY Eau Claire, W2